Hello artists! Today we're going to practice some different watercolor painting techniques for our next unit. And here's what we need to do to get set up. You need to take a large piece of paper, fold it in half once, in half again, and then in half one more time. And I'll show you this in class, but this will get you a paper with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 folds. In each of these areas, we're gonna try different types of watercolor techniques. You're gonna be going around the room to different stations and trying them out. Our first station is watercolor resist. On your first square or rectangle, you're going to take some oil pastels and follow the directions. Color with oil pastels, lines, dashes, or swirls, and then paint on top. Watercolor painting station 2 is to add texture to your paint. You can paint a wash of watercolor, that means one color, on your paper. While it's still wet, you're going to apply either plastic wrap, and you can crinkle it up and press it down onto your paint, or maybe you want to use paper towel and dab into your paint. Those are techniques you can use to create texture. Our next station is using salt to create texture on top of our watercolor paint. I'm gonna paint this just how I normally would paint. Water on my brush, dip into the paint, cover this whole thing with color, and then I'm gonna carefully sprinkle some salt on top of the paint while it's still wet. You're gonna leave it there and let it dry. Watercolor station 4 is a watercolor gradient. That means we're gonna work from the top of our paper to the bottom. You're gonna choose 4 analogous colors to work with. These are colors next to each other on the color wheel, and you'll have one to look at your table. I'm gonna start by painting the lightest color at the top, then the next darkest, then the darkest and darkest all the way down to the bottom. So light to dark across your page. Your paintbrushes should be going all the same direction. Watercolor station 5 is the wet on wet technique. This is my favorite type of painting technique, and I want to slow this one down to show you. You're going to start by painting big clouds of water on your paper, at least 2. And you should be able to see the water floating above your page. You have to work quickly with this technique. Once you have your puddle of water on your paper, you're going to choose a color. I'm going to go with purple. And I'm just gonna drop that paint right into my cloud. I'm not mixing it, I'm not brushing it around. I'm just dotting it on and letting the water do the work. The next thing I'm gonna do is pick one more color to dot into my cloud. And I'm just gonna let those colors mix on their own. You can see how it spreads on the water. It's so satisfying. I love this technique, especially for painting a sky. Watercolor station 6 is sponge painting. We're gonna lightly wet our sponge brush into the water, choose a color, and then stamp it all over your page. This is gonna create a spongy texture that your paintbrush wouldn't be able to replicate. You're gonna cover the whole area with whatever colors you like. This is great for painting trees. Our last painting technique is drip painting, or sometimes called splatter painting. It's really important to be mindful when we're working with this technique because it can get a bit messy. Everyone should wear an apron for this. You're gonna lightly dip your toothbrush or paintbrush, whatever you decide to use, into water, then into paint, and you can gently drop paint onto your paper. I'll show you what that looks like. Whenever we're using watercolor paint, we want to be careful not to mix our paint colors, but if you do happen to accidentally mix a paint color, you can take a damp paper towel and just wipe off the top of the color to leave it clean for the next person. Have fun and be careful.